All right, everybody, thanks so much. If you could subscribe to our new Women's Sports Insider podcast, we greatly appreciate that. We're just starting out. We're getting all the nuts and crannies out of this, but we'll get there. We do have a very special guest on the program. So excited to have her on. Chloe Nugent here on the program. She is a stud that's just coming off injury at the University of Michigan. She is in the transfer portal, so she won't be in Michigan for too much longer, but she will be on to bigger and better things wherever school she goes to. Really excited to have her on the podcast. You can follow her on Instagram. It's Chloe, CHLOENUGE_ And then on Twitter, it is at Chloe, CHLOE 11_07. Chloe, such an honor to have you on the podcast. You've put up with a lot of my nonsense on the phone and also on the text. And I'm grateful that you did that. And so grateful, like I said, to have you on here.
I'm so grateful to be on.
All right, so let's kick it around here. Tell the audience that doesn't know anything about you a little bit about your story because you have a very intriguing story.
Yeah, so I'm Chloe. I'm a freshman here at University of Michigan. I'm a medical redshirt freshman, so I will be going into the transfer portal with 4 years of eligibility. I come from a very high-ranked soccer club, Solar, and from Texas. And yeah.
So just talk about a little bit about growing up in Texas. Obviously, soccer in Texas. It's not just football, I should say, is pristine in Texas. It's soccer too, and it's really, the top of the heap. I would say Florida is good as well, but it might not be good as Texas. But that's a debate for another day and time. But talk a little bit about your soccer journey growing up and, playing on Solar, but even before that in high school in general.
No, Texas is definitely, I will say we're a big football state, but we are definitely a big soccer state as well. Growing up, I started out club at a very young age.
Mhm.
I was playing up with the '06s. I am an
Okay.
'07, so I was playing up with, I started out on Liverpool, then I followed my coach over to Sting, and then followed him over to Solar, where Age Pure happened. And I dropped down to our '07 team, and I played on Solar ever since. I played at Hebron High School, which, in my opinion, is one of the best high schools in the state of Texas. Um, and it was just great. High school soccer, I think a lot of people think is weaker, but honestly, in my position, it was definitely tough. I played against a lot of girls that I saw in club. So it was always very competitive.
So look, talk about like what made you pick soccer as far as that goes. Was it something as far as a family member saying, you're good at this, you're Speedy Gonzalez, whatever it may be, you're good on the ball? What was the why there?
I actually grew up playing so many different sports.
Okay.
I my big two were gymnastics and soccer growing up, and then obviously throughout middle school, you do all of the sports. Even in high school, my freshman year, I played volleyball for the school. It was definitely family. I am a very soccer oriented family. My aunt played at Mississippi State when she went to college. Uh, both my aunts and my mom both played at my high school, so it was definitely family, but I honestly just love it. Like growing up, it was just my favorite thing to do. And so when it came time to make a decision on which one I wanted to pursue, I knew that I wanted to keep playing soccer.
So obviously playing at the caliber of play you've played at throughout your life, you were going to go to a great soccer school in general, and you're such a great player. With that said, what made you choose? Excuse me, whoa, struggling with words here. Not having a stroke here, please. What made you choose University of Michigan?
Michigan is just overall such an amazing school. Not only with soccer, but academically, which is something that I really wanted in a college.
Mhm.
I'm looking to go into a very competitive field. I want to be an occupational therapist. So OT school is
Wow.
extremely competitive. So I wanted something that was going to definitely, put me above the rest. Soccer wise, it was such an amazing program. Going on my visit, every single one of the girls were so sweet, so welcoming. Coaches, it was just great. And they wanted to build a winning team. They didn't have the best season before we got here, and so they wanted people to come in and make a difference.
Right. And we talk about how good the Big Ten is, winning the national championship in football, winning it in basketball, obviously with University of Michigan. And, soccer's been pristine there as well, too. But, people say, oh, the SEC is so great in soccer. But I'll tell you, the Big Ten Conference is really starting to be on the up and up, and it's starting to take the SEC out, I feel like, in soccer. Now, obviously, University of Texas, Texas A&M is in the SEC. I'm sure you have friends that are playing at those schools or maybe about to play at those schools. Talk a little bit about Big Ten soccer compared to the SEC.
I think Big Ten soccer it's just a different culture.
Okay.
I mean, every school you go to, obviously, like they all have goals, they all have things they want to achieve. And obviously I'm not at an SEC school, so I can't really say what their goals are, but at least for the
Sure.
Big Ten, it's really like championships. Like that is the ultimate goal. So I think that may be the difference, but obviously it's the same place everywhere you go.
And again, for people listening, Chloe Nugent here on the program. She is playing at University of Michigan, but she is in the transfer portal. So definitely check her out. Her Instagram is Chloe. It's CHLOENUGE _ On Twitter, it's CHLOE 11 underscore oh 07. As we keep going into the interview, and it's a big part of my life, but obviously through reading about you and watching you. I know faith is a big part of your life. Can you talk a little bit about your faith and how it's affected your play in soccer? Because, a lot of athletes talk about their faith, but a lot don't.
My faith is a huge impact, not only in soccer, but in my life. I'm a volunteer at my church when I'm at home.
Oh,
Faith is
nice.
just something that I knew with the type of competition that I've been growing up in. I needed to have a firm foundation of something. And for me, that's faith. And so, I mean, before I step on the field for every game, I pray. I read my Bible. I have write Bible verses on tape before I play because my ultimate thing is like I am playing for God. And so it's something more for, me to strive for. And it's definitely something that has been a big, big role in everything that's going on in my life right now.
Since you brought up the Bible verses, talk about some of your favorite verses as far as that goes, if you could.
I have two favorites. My first one is John 16:22, and it's just a reminder to me. I lived with my grandparents growing up, and my grandpa ended up passing away my freshman year of high school. And so that was just what kind of led me through everything, especially with like soccer and school. He was my biggest supporter. So definitely just having that Bible verse reminds me of him and that I can keep pushing every day. And my second one is Romans 8:18, and it's just a reminder, especially through this injury that I'm going through, that there's always a positive on the other side as long as you work towards it.
So again, since you tapped on the injury, let's talk a little bit about that. And I'm sure, again, your faith has really pushed you through this because, you went through a tough injury and, going into college, that's supposed to be some of the best 4 years of your life. And you're playing a sport at a very big time institution. And then all of a sudden, everything hits as far as hitting the wall. Talk about the injury in general, because a lot of the audience, whether they're listening or watching this, I'm sure want to hear about what happened to you, and also talk about how your faith, you're a month away from being back in tip-top condition, God willing, how your faith's played into moving you forward through that injury as well.
No, absolutely. So my injury was actually an ongoing thing. I had a lot of knee issues in high school.
Right.
My going into my freshman year of high school, I dislocated my kneecap and I ended up fracturing my tibia. It was nothing surgical. It was more just, let that bone heal. That just caused overall some issues. We didn't really think much of it. Going through high school, it was just kind of, little aches and pains. And then back in September, I ended up dislocating my kneecap again at practice. And I went and saw the surgeon, and I had to get MPFL reconstruction surgery, which is the ligament that holds your kneecap in place. So it was tough. My faith definitely has been like my foundation through this injury, especially with being so far away from home. My grandma was only up here for a week, and it was surgery. I think 2 days before surgery, surgery day, and then that week following surgery. So
Wow.
everything I did after that was based. I had a bunch of help with my teammates and coaches and staff and all that, but just being an adult, you have to do it on your own. And
Sure.
so my faith was definitely a big thing because I couldn't really go anywhere. I couldn't really do anything. So my life was literally just class and rehab. And, I was by myself a lot. So I, through that time, I definitely dug deeper into my faith just because, like you said, college is supposed to be the best 4 years of your life. And, getting here and having that type of injury, it was like, why did this happen to me? But I think I definitely grew deeper in my faith. And, I always say, and it's a reminder I keep myself every day that, he doesn't build mountains you can't climb over. And,
Yes.
they just make you stronger. And that, sometimes people have harder, like battles they have to face because their calling is higher.
Well, it's also depressing. You're coming in as a freshman. You're ready to contend for a starting spot and, push the limit as far as that goes. And then all of a sudden, everything hits the wall. Obviously, like you stated, you've been going through different injuries throughout, high school and stuff like that. But still, you're ready to rock and roll, and then boom, everything hits. I want to talk to you about this because, again, you know a lot of girls that play. We brought this up to a lot of coaches, former players, uh, former Gator player Danielle Fotopoulos. She played on the Olympic team in '99. We brought this up to her because I was reading an article from USA Today, and they talked a lot about a lot of girls soccer players particularly, or even women's soccer players that are playing in college and even in the upper levels as well and professional, are getting a lot of ACL tears. But this is particularly for girls soccer. There's talk that there's a lot of issues that these coaches don't have that sort of training. Were you worried about some of these issues? Because again, growing up, you had some injury issues. And were you worried about this? Like these coaches and trainers, they didn't really work you out and stretch you out enough that, these things could happen. And they are happening to a lot of girls that are playing soccer. Obviously, men have different injuries that are more prevalent with them, but the ACL tear is a big one for a lot of girls playing soccer coming up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think obviously I feel like anyone kind of has that fear behind. I think because I had knee injuries in the past that it was always in the back of my mind, but it was never a constant fear that I was going to tear my ACL. I think, we had a strength coach here during season and she did really, bring us through warm-ups and, like making sure our bodies were ready to play. And, we did knee strengthening. Even in my high school, I mean, every week during high school season, we would sit there and, before practice for 10 minutes, do exercises that will help strengthen your knee because ACLs are so, so terrible. And there's so many reasons why it can happen. And so I think now that, it's a big uprising in women's soccer. And I think coaches and staff are finally starting to, implement like that type of training into, I mean, even during our lifts, we would go up to our turf room we have in our weight room and we would do different exercises that will help with strengthening your knee.
Want to get into a little bit more as far as we're winding down to the end of the interview, but a little bit more about you. And we talk about, what sets you apart from the competition as far as skills. What would you say does set you apart from competition as far as your skill and, your biggest assets?
I think the biggest thing that sets me apart is really like my heart. Um, I have grown up with, again, very, very competitive teams, very just different types of teams. But I think my biggest thing is that like I'm willing and I'm wanting to work. All of my coaches have always been like, I want them to critique me. And I feel like that's one thing a lot of players don't want. They want their coach to sit there and just, be like, oh, good job. Like, you did great. I want them to sit there and be like, you did good, but you need to work on this and that. I mean, my high school coach, after every game we would win, he would, celebrate with us, but he would look at me and be like, you played great, but we need to work on this and this and this. And I think that's what sets me apart because I want that. I want to get better. I don't want everything just to be, you did good. So I think that's my biggest thing is like I want that constructive criticism from them because I want to know what I can do to get to a higher level.
Chloe Nugent here on the program. She's a player at University of Michigan right now in the transfer portal right now. Her Instagram is Chloe. It's CHLOENUGE _, and then the Twitter is at Chloe CHLOE 11 _07. I want to get into this because I feel like this is something that's I've been thinking about personally when we talk about soccer and women's soccer particularly as far as skill in general. I see a lot of, and I've coached girls soccer in high school and in the past few years, and I see a lot of parents where their kids are really good. They take them out of the high school realm and just throw them in club and let them go. And then we see some girls that are really good. One of my good friends, she played at Boston College for 4 years. She was a stud over there in the ACC, but she played high school at my high school, which had really exceptional girls soccer, but also played club. There's a lot of parents that would say, hey, let's just stick with club because it's more so that my kid might get a scholarship off of playing club than they are playing high school by itself or even both because there's that risk of injury when you just kind of overwork your whole body playing both. What do you feel? You know this. You know a lot of girls that have played, particularly in high school and club. What would you say as far as do you think girls should play one or the other or both? Because there is that issue with injury in general.
Um, Absolutely. I think if they are wanting to compete at a high level, I think club is the way to go.
Mhm.
I know some girls that, did club and then stopped and then just did high school. And I
Wow.
think maybe they didn't get to like the school they wanted to, or, they're not playing soccer anymore going
Mhm.
into college. I think club is the way to go, especially if you're wanting to get recruited. Because I mean, you have so many, like we would have showcases with games with 90 up to 100 college coaches watching.
Wow.
Playing both is definitely something a lot of people struggle with, especially arguing with their parents. My grandparents were very supportive about me playing both. I think it also is just very dependent on the coach and how they treat it because my high school coach knew that we were playing, a lot of us were playing club. He was very easygoing with, if you had a showcase that weekend, he wouldn't push your body. Even same thing with club. We would kind of have an off period during high school season where we wouldn't practice as many days and practices would be based on all of our bodies and what we really needed that day. So I think where I came from, they did a very, very good job at being able to balance that. And I think it worked out great. I mean, I know girls who only did club and like they're here. Like one of my teammates here who also played on my club back home. She did not play high school and she's an amazing, amazing soccer player. So I think it's just really personal on what you want. And I think for me, it was when I wanted to play high school because of the fact that I loved all my friends on high school and it was just extra touches and extra games and extra fitness that I was able to get. And we were also really good. So hopefully we were hoping for a state title. We didn't get there just yet, but I feel like in the next few years they'll be able to get there.
I'm going to go to some audience questions to move toward the end of the interview. We can make this a little bit of a, one word to a sentence, I guess. We'll roll with that. When we talk about, your biggest accomplishments, and maybe that might not be one sentence, but can you talk about your accomplishments so far?
My biggest accomplishment. Okay, let's see. I
Uh,
think getting to this level is my biggest
okay.
accomplishment so far. I
Okay,
think that's
fair
my
enough.
biggest one.
And these are just kind of audience questions people throw in, so it's not in any type of order. But tell us a particular day or week for you as a student athlete. Obviously, you're you're probably in the trainer's office a lot, but beyond that, give
Yeah.
us a little bit of a lowdown.
Typical day, honestly, I don't go to practice anymore, so I sleep in till probably around 8. Then I head to the training room, and then I have classes anywhere from 11:30 to 2:30 or 2:30 to 7 p.m. So it's kind of just dependent on
Wow.
the day. Yeah, it's kind of just dependent on the day, what day of the week it is. But
So, who is your favorite player growing up? What style do you play? As far as, I guess we'll just say favorite player. I fumbled that one, but that's okay.
I have two, Alex Morgan and the GOAT Messi.
So when we talk about soccer, because obviously, like the NWSL is really growing, and we've seen teams, expansion teams come up every 10 seconds, it seems like every year, we should say. But, but with that said, women's soccer is really on the rise. What do you feel like women's soccer can do to even make it even bigger? Because, how do you get guys involved? Because we talked about this, and I hope this isn't a weird remark, but I'm just telling, I've talked to a lot of girls that have played, and they tell me they're like, a lot of the guys just go because they don't give a damn about soccer. They're looking at the girls. I mean, that's kind of childish, but if that's the way the cookie crumbles, then that's it. Do you feel like that's a thing that's going on in soccer, or do you feel like how do we get more guys involved? Because I feel like the sport cannot grow with just woman. You need to have man and woman enthused about the game.
That's hard. That's a hard one. I think I think it's starting to grow, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like in the recent years it's been more. Um, I think I think what the sad thing is there's starting to be less and less people loving the game. And so you start to see less and less of both genders, honestly. I think it's honestly more for women to love the game a little bit less than men.
Really? Why do you say
I
that?
I just feel like, you know, there's certain things that, women you can say to women that you can't really or that you can say to men that you can't really say to women. And I think that's definitely something that I've personally seen going throughout my years of soccer is when you have a like a soccer coach that coaches
Right.
boys, they talk to them very, very differently than how they would talk to girls. And I'm not saying, we're more emotional, but I think we have more heart into our sport because I'm a girl, so I think
Right.
I it's a deeper meaning to me than just, the game of soccer. There's deeper meanings to me. So
Would would you prefer to play for a woman than a man? Because obviously it is women's soccer. A woman knows more about women's issues than obviously a man does. I mean, that's easy to say. But it seems like the soccer, as far as women's soccer goes, it's more dominated by male coaches than female coaches. And you would think that there would be more women coaches because obviously it's their game.
I actually personally would rather be coached by a male.
Wow.
Um,
Okay. Why is that?
I I think it's just growing up. I've always been coached by males.
Okay.
This was actually my first female coach coming to Michigan. Um, I actually really don't think there's a difference, to be very honest. I think a good coach is a good coach, no matter who
Fair.
they are, and they treat everyone the same. Doesn't matter who they are. I think just for me, growing up with male coaches, I like that more. But honestly, I think it doesn't really matter as long as it's a good coach.
Yeah. That's a fair point. And I'm glad that you said that. As we go toward the last 4 or 5 questions, and this one can be on like a 1 or 2 word answer. Chloe Nugent here on Fire Breathing Rob. It is I just said my other show. I'm fumbling with. We'll have to edit that out. Chloe Nugent here on the program. She is from the University of Michigan in the transfer portal. Her Instagram is Chloe NUGE underscore, and her Twitter is Chloe 11 underscore 07. Just some kind of quick hits here. Favorite movie?
Purple Heart.
Okay. Well, is that a military movie or?
It is a military movie.
Okay. All
It
right. I never
is.
heard of it, but I was like Purple Eye. It's like I've grown
Yeah,
up in
no,
politics, so it's like, yeah.
it's very good.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. Favorite music?
Country. Anything
Okay, any
country.
kind of specific artist or no? Just generic.
George Strait and Morgan Wallen.
Okay, fair enough. Favorite pregame meal?
Any type of salad.
Salad? No like pasta or anything to get that energy flow?
S- Right
Come
before
on.
a game, right before the night before I'll eat pasta, but
Okay.
before a game, it has to be salad.
Just because you want it low key for not to.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, fair enough. We won't say any other words with that, but no, I get definitely get that. Want to go light before the game. Biggest superstition or ritual?
Biggest superstition is my hair. I have to have a braid in my
Okay.
hair.
Any kind of
Otherwise,
headband or
nope. I think I used to do pre-wrap, and then I started growing up, and I started doing the trending slick back. But I have to have a braid, otherwise, I feel like I'm not myself.
all right. Well, I just said the pre-wrap because the Alex Morgan issue. Yeah,
Yes.
that she's so that's why, but okay, so you grew past her. Okay, fair enough. All right, last question. If you were to have dinner with any athlete, past or present, who would it be and why?
I think it'd be messy.
Okay, just because he's one of the top players. So you're Messi over Cristiano Ronaldo then?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. We're
Yes.
with Ronaldo here. I'm half Portuguese, so I gotta go with that. Portuguese guy there. Anyways, last question. This is kind of the huge question of what's going on next year. What is going on next year with you? You are in the portal. I know you still have about a month before you get into game shape. I don't really know how the portal goes. I just know people go in the portal and then they're out of the portal. So tell the audience a little bit about what your future is as far as next season. Is there any particular schools that you would like to go to as far as that goes, or what's going on?
No, definitely. So the portal opens May 1st and it ends May 15th. So you have 15 days to
Okay.
find a school. For me, I just want to play soccer. I do have a few schools that would be like my dreamer schools, but I'm really open to absolutely anything. I just want a good soccer program with a good culture, and then obviously a very good school with good education.
You're not going to spill the tea of any schools in specific, or you
There's
keeping
there's
that to the vest?
keeping that. I gotta make sure I don't jinx it.
All right, fair enough. Uh, but Chloe, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sorry I fumbled and stumbled through some of the questions. That's why we have the edit button. We will move on from there. But hey, I appreciate you coming on, and let's do this again sometime. And again, for people that are listening, it is on Instagram. It's Chloe NUGE underscore, and then on Twitter it's Chloe 11 underscore 07. Shoot her a follow on both. Let's follow our journey. And again, we hope to have you on again soon, whatever jersey you're in next.
Thank you so much for having me.